attention to the following. The hearing will be filmed and streamed live. The recording and transcript will be published afterwards on the States Assembly website. All electronic devices, including mobile phones, should be switched to silent. And so I'm Deputy Catherine Curtis, the chair of the panel.
I'm Deputy Helen Miles, member of the panel.
Deputy Muriel Hegarel, Minister for Justice and Home Affairs.
Kate Bryden, Chief Officer for Justice and Home Affairs.
Robin Smith, Chief of Police.
Paul Brown, Chief Fire Officer.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We only have 45 minutes for this hearing, so if I ask some questions first about the revenue heads of expenditure. So, Minister, we noticed that there's an overall reduction of approximately 5.6 million compared to 2025. So could you say what this is attributable to?
As you will be aware, the ambulance service have moved from JHA back to health. So that's why we've obviously adjusted for that purpose.
Okay, is it this completely that, is it?
Yes, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. We note that the department is due to make savings of 365,000 in 2026 through roles. Please could you outline how those proposed savings will be made?
Right, okay. There's been some removal of roles in relation to the senior manager at JASIS. One manager at the prison, a PE manager. Reduction of rent for the Field Squadron residential properties, and a reduction of 90,000 investment following the service delivered in 2024. Is there anything else?
That's the 25, yeah. And then for 26, the amount the JHA will deliver is actually now 299,000 because the 66 moved with ambulance as their savings commitment.
Okay.
So our remaining amount is just slightly shy of 300,000, and we are working on the savings proposals for JHA to put to the minister, but we haven't got firm plans yet.
Okay. All right. And you just mentioned about the reduction in some of the particular staff roles, and I just was going to ask a bit more about that. So that we see the full-time roles in prison service and customs and immigration are both reduced by one full-time employee role, whereas the fire service has increased by one and JHA Directorate has increased by 3. So could you outline about why those roles have changed?
Yeah, so the Paul can come in on the fire and rescue. The JHA Directorate will, I think, be an increase in the Emergency Services Control Centre, which sits under the JHA Directorate for accounting purposes.
Right, so that's the new 3 full-time employee roles in the
I think
control
that will
centre.
be why there's an increase there. If that's on the 25 figures.
Yeah. Oh, in 2026.
Oh, so
yeah.
that will be the increase of, there must be a net. So there'll be an increase through the business case investment in the ESCC that will mean the headcount under the JHA Directorate for the ESCC part of it increases. I'm sure we'll talk about the investment case there. It is actually going to add 5 posts, but I think it's shown as only 3 because there's probably a netting off somewhere else.
Okay.
And those posts don't formally start until the middle of next year, but I can explain that a bit further later on, I suspect.
Okay. And there's an extra 1 full-time role in the fire service.
That's right. So that's part of it. And as Kate says, I'm sure we'll get to it. But the investment case.
Recently, and there was a number of roles underneath that. So one of those individuals has been promoted to the senior officer role, and basically the workload has been redistributed. It was felt that that was made financial sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and that was customs and prison service.
Oh no, that was in relation to the prison service. They've removed a manager in relation to the.
It had been a vacant post for some time anyway, so we've taken it out of the headcount and the budget.
Okay. Can you confirm if there were any challenging decisions to be made as part of drafting the proposed Justice and Home Affairs budget for 26? So, if so, what were they, and were there any bids for funding that were rejected as well?
Right, the question you're asking me, sorry, just for me to get this clear in my head, you asking me about our savings, or are you asking me about the actual budget we've got?
Well, first of all, I'm
That's why
asking
I'm just-
about challenges,
Okay,
which
yeah.
could be about making savings. It could be
Okay.
about things that you want to happen that are not happening. It's
Right.
quite general, really. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think in relation to JHA across the piece, there is always going to be challenges to make savings. I think that is always going to be the case regardless. Because of course, what you will know is that the majority of the funding and the budgets that go to those services is actually staffing. So when you're asked to make savings, when you've got very little budget in relation to other things, it is always going to be a challenge. But of course, as part of, as one of the departments within the government, we have to sort of play our part as well. So those challenges have been quite strong, and I think Kate can probably speak a little bit more about the sort of challenges, because Kate's the one that's been having to try and find those savings and where the leaner pieces are, I think.
Yeah.
So the department has a number of continuing pressures, not all of which are addressed through this budget, which we think we can balance and continue to mitigate next year. It will always be challenging to deliver frontline services where there are increasing pressures. And we've talked to the panel before about things like the increase in VOG and the prison population, etc. That we could elaborate on that at a future hearing. But those things create cost pressures that we continue to have to manage, and that would be the key challenge, I would say, for next year.
Right. So do you think this is impacting the services at all? Or?
Well, we'll always manage it on the basis of risk to make sure that we're not having, to the best extent we can, we're not having an impact on the frontline delivery of services, especially when they directly affect islanders. So that involves making compromises on the lesser things that are slightly one step away from the front line, and managing as effectively as we can within the budgets available to us.
Okay, and were there any bids for funding that were rejected?
No.
No.
No, we didn't. I'll talk to you about SOJP in relation to what we have managed to secure for the States of Jersey Police for next year is the recruitment of 10 officers in January. That isn't within the budget. It's a letter of comfort or whatever they call them. So because the challenge, I think, for all of the emergency services is that it's not about recruiting somebody today and they're able to do the job tomorrow. So I think, as an example, SOJP is a 2-year programme. Fire services, 4-year programme. They're probably able to start and do things prior to the 4 years, and it will be the same for sort of prison, customs and immigration as well, and all to different extents. So I think the challenge with these certain types of services is that you need to recruit before everybody's left. So for me, we'd just finished finished the 2-year programme from the most recent recruits in 2023. And so I'm aware there will be people, staff leaving within the coming year. So it was important to say that we needed to be able to recruit in order that we do not reduce the service, the staff that we've already got. So that's why we're recruiting 10 in January.
Have you already technically recruited those staff? Are they all in a talent pool waiting to go
They've all received their letters
to say,
that they are appointable in January. So
Okay.
they've had their letters to confirm that they will start in January. And this occasion, this will be the first time it's only in my tenure, all of those 10 will be trained in Jersey, as opposed to sending them to another force in the UK for them then to come back, which generates increased cost, as you will understand, to then be given more Jersey-related law. So there are many efficiencies. There's been a lot of work for our learning and development, over 100 different lesson plans as we prepare for what is a 20-week training programme. But I can confirm that all of those 10 have received their letters and will start in January.
okay, and over and above that, are you bringing in more transferees as well next year?
Yes, so we currently have 10 now transferees in our pool, One was only interviewed just last week. And as you all know, we sort of drop those transferees in through the year when we need particular expertise. But as the Minister has mentioned a number of times, we are really keen to recruit from within Jersey. So this is the first time we've been able to do it now for about 2 years, thanks to the letter of comfort that I'm yet to receive, but I'm confident I will receive it. So we can recruit to those 10, and throughout the year we will drop in the other 10 to increase our numbers.
Okay.
That's good. And sorry, go on.
But I will say, because from the outset, from taking this role, I raised concerns about the level of resources, and I think what is critical, what we realise is that when we bring in legislation, that legislation must show the impact on the resources, and it isn't only JHA, it's regulations like environment and all of those. These pieces of legislation must include the resources and the cost, because we seem to have drifted away from doing that, and I think this is what is critical. But so we have significant pieces of legislation coming through, so those will have an impact on, and that will include, you know, not only SOJP but the prison, you know, potentially court services, JDAS, and all of those other things. So I think it's quite important that as an assembly, and the state's moving forward, identifies that when they bring in legislation that they need to look at the impacts on those departments and those costs that will be, and then that needs to come into the future budget.
So has that letter of comfort then provided kind of top cover for the Chief of Police for the VORG pieces that you're bringing forward?
No.
No, this is separate of
Correct.
the VORG
This
pieces.
is separate. This is separate. Those pieces of legislation that will be brought forward before we go into PERDA will have the cost of what it is, because the
But they'll have to go into the next year's budget.
yes, because we have to. That has to be attached to legislation. That is what the process that we were told to go through.
Okay, so I'll come back to the matter of the full-time roles in police in a moment. I've just got a few questions here. First, about the revenue heads of expenditure for the States of Jersey Police. So, Minister, the projected revenue heads of expenditure for the police has increased by approximately 957,000. Could you explain the reasons for that?
957,000.
Yeah.
How's it?
I'm not sure.
Head of expenditure, the revenue, page notes, so I can't give that to you at the moment.
We'll have a look at the page note and get back to it.
We can get back to you about it, yeah? Okay. So we'll get back to you on that question later.
Yeah, because I'm.
Yeah. We now just a point about the savings. We note that the States of Jersey Police are due to make savings of 187,000 in 2026. So how will the savings be made?
Basically, it'll be reducing FTE by 2.7 police staff. It is important to note that although 344 FTEs are identified within SOJP budget, the actual number of staff is around 330, of which we are holding vacancies to remain affordable. So I don't know if you've got anything that you want to add on that, Robin.
No, it's you're absolutely accurate, Minister. 2.7 posts will accommodate the 187,000 savings required for 2026. Those 2.7 posts are already vacant posts. That of course does drive a pressure though. Of course, you know, our police staff are an invaluable part of our service, and what we don't want necessarily is using police officers to do a number of the other functions. So that is not without its challenges, but that won't mean that people are being made redundant. It is because they are vacant posts and they are already programmed in for 2026 to deliver the 187k savings.
Right, thank you for that.
I think we've worked it out. We think probably what it is, it's actually pay awards. So what will have happened
Okay.
for all states' budgets, of course, they'll have gone up by the pay increases.
Right.
So that's why the budgets will have shown from the previous thing to going up to this. That's why when you said about the 900, I was confused. But I think it is actually the pay awards.
Pay
and
awards, because
yeah.
there's a large number of
Yeah.
staff. It's
Yeah.
Page
large.
113 of the budget.
Yes, yeah. So of course that is the difference between what it is and what our savings are, etc., etc.
Okay,
Yeah.
all
I was
right.
getting quite euphoric at one stage when you mentioned
I was getting quite excited actually because I was thinking that I had
could I have possibly missed 900,000?
Yeah, I don't think even I could do that.
Okay, well, now I have a few questions about the full-time roles in the police, but from what we've just discussed, that would probably affect the things I was going to ask. So, for example, I was going to say, ask whether the number of frontline police officers was sufficient for Jersey's population, because the ratio reported in 2024 annual report is 1.9 per 1,000 population, which is lower than comparable jurisdictions, which are over 2 generally. But with this, what you've just described as the extra role, police officers coming in, how does that affect the numbers?
I can answer that.
Oh, yeah, it's got the numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Certainly the ratio per 100,000 is, we have shown that there are fewer police officers when compared to other CDs. One of the challenges we have with this is often we find ourselves comparing apples with pears. So the numbers of police officers is a common currency, and a currency that is, of course, very important to government and more important to islanders. They want to know the number of police officers. But also part of that equation is the number of police staff. So when we compare ourselves with other CDs, which inevitably is the best place to make those comparisons, and indeed we also use Gibraltar as well, there is a different ratio in terms of number of police officers against the number of police staff. I take the view, for example, that I do not need police officers in my digital forensics unit. What I need is technicians. So you don't need to carry a warrant card. What is very important, and we've seen this in our recent history, is getting that balance right. Because we have seen that our police officers in Jersey, they double, treble and quadruple hat. They don't just have one job, and nor can they have one job, given the complexities of some of the things we've had to deal with over the last 5 or 6 years or so. So to compare, that is accurate, that we have fewer police officers per 100,000 population, but it's only a partial, because it doesn't include police staff. As I've often said in these meetings and elsewhere, as police chief, would I like to have more police officers? Of course I would, because there are some challenges out there. I think we are at a manageable number, but as the Minister has alluded to, and as is referenced in the budget, we are seeing increases in demand, particularly regarding violence against women and girls. And again, as the Minister has mentioned, as soon as we bring in new laws, not only would we want a diversity impact assessment, we should have an organisational impact assessment as to who will investigate those laws and how will they then go through the whole of the judicial process, including at the very end of this, maybe even vacancies or rather occupancy levels in prison throughout the whole of judicial process. So we are now at a number at just over 200. The 10 will help enormously, but I will always be striving to get more. And as you'll have seen in the budget, there is a line in the budget around digital forensics, which is a hugely growth area, i.e. how we investigate these things, and also how we investigate rape and serious sexual offences, where we have seen over the last 3 years a 27% increase.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you can tell us what you expect the numbers of police officers and support staff to be next year, or send it to us in writing afterwards.
I can give you an accurate figure in writing,
Yeah.
and the work is underway to provide the Minister with what our expected or anticipated numbers are going into 2027.
Okay.
Because as you will have seen referenced in the budget, there is a specific reference to VORG and digital forensics. So the work we are now underway, which is now underway, is beginning to better anticipate what future demand is going to be. One thing I can be absolutely certain of, that demand will increase, it won't go down.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you some questions about digital forensics. Do you think that there's it's sufficiently funded or needs more?
There's a simple answer to that, Deputy, is no. We are in no difficult, excuse me, we're in no different position to, and I visited the chief in Guernsey yesterday. Our digital forensics unit, or high-tech crime unit, as it gets often described, is under enormous pressure, both in terms of kit and in terms of people and in terms of software. None of this gets cheaper. But I was at National Police Chiefs Council a while ago, and there was a suggestion that 92% of all investigations involve one of those. So they've overtaken fingerprints, DNA, and we need to invest in this. And we have got investment for 26, but we will need to have a long, hard look about where it takes us. The UK forces are also struggling with trying to just keep up with technology. 10 years ago, you could have a 32 gig, and now I'm told these are going to be 2 terabytes with thousands and thousands of images. And how do you get through those thousands and thousands of images? So it is massively a growth area. The final point on it about digital forensics is this: it's good for the delivery of swift justice. So if technicians are able to examine information on telephones quickly, that can often generate a quicker judicial process. It can often generate a quicker guilty plea, which is good for everybody along the line. So in 26, I would be keen, as referenced in the budget, to explore how we can increase investment into the digital forensics unit.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, isn't it? And certainly the phones add another world sort of to everything, don't they? So my last question about the policing is, will this budget have any impact on the community policing team?
The answer is yes. We are looking at how we may need to move resource within States of Jersey Police to where we've got greater demand. So our public protection unit, given the references I've already made and the 27% increase in VORG-related crime or incidents, increases in the number of allegations of rape and serious sexual offences. 40% of those are historic, so over a year. What I think that tells us is the success of highlighting violence against women and girls, and working with other agencies and other charities. It is undoubtedly the case that more and more people want to come forward given their confidence in the system. But with that, as the Minister has already alluded to, comes demand and cost and effort and investigation. It can take up to a year and sometimes 2 years from the original complaint to then be in this building with an enormous amount of work that goes into it, including digital forensics. There is inevitability that in 2026 we will look to move resource. Could be, potentially, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. I just had some questions around the COCF, because the budget doesn't detail any balance transfers from the COCF to the consolidated funds, but it's clear in the budget that the COCF is going to be the source of funding for Dewberry House. So we just wanted to clarify whether the COCF is going to be still going to be the funding for the extra funding for Dewberry House.
Yes.
That's as we understand it, yeah.
That's
So
1.7 million.
So when will there be a balance transfer?
It would be done at the point where the fact that 1.7 is the right amount is confirmed. So you'll have seen that we've gone out for tender on the
Yes.
project. We won't actually know how much we need until we've got the tenders back.
Okay. So do you know how much is in the COCF at the moment? Okay, thank you.
Treasury officers manage it without us having visibility of what the fund balance is.
Yes, okay, thank you. During the last budget, we learned that the major project for building a new ambulance, fire and rescue headquarters was likely to be changed to provide for separate headquarters facilities for each of the service.
Yeah.
So in this budget, it's been changed to fire and rescue headquarters, but the total approved budget remains the same. So can you just tell us really what the updated plan is for those facilities?
Yeah. Well, fire and rescue at the moment, as we've said, is going to be independent, and so is the ambulance, whereas they were going to both be on the same site. So they're going to be separate projects. This will be captured within an overarching programme ensuring cohesive across government. So we will be looking at across sort of different areas as to where those are likely to be. The programme team for it will consist of relevant officers from SIPES, JHA, JPH and the new hospital facilities programme within HCJ, and with an under umbrella of investing in the Jersey programme. So they've basically sort of all split out at the moment.
So all of this will move into the aspirational Investing in Jersey programme.
It will be covered as part of the Investing in Jersey programme.
So will
yeah.
the budget that was allocated for all of this move into the Investing in Jersey fund?
I don't know yet because I don't know exactly how it will be treated in relation to that, but it's in the scope of the discovery phase of Investing in
Okay.
Jersey. So there's been a meeting about it.
So that's why the budget remains the same,
Yeah.
even though the two have been separated.
Yeah, and
Totally.
we've got a revised feasibility study which has a new cost in it for separate fire and rescue and ambulance facilities, but it hasn't yet been presented to the relevant ministers.
Okay.
And so it wasn't done in time for update in this budget. It is known that the two separate costs will be more than 24,
Okay.
inevitably.
So-
and that 24 is a 2020 figure, so the effective inflation,
Slightly.
even
likely
if
to
we
be-
were progressing on that basis,
likely
would
to
be
be more.
significant.
Okay. 53,000 budgeted then for 2026 for fire and rescue. What is the plan for the funding? Is that part of the feasibility?
Yeah.
Okay. And have we got a timescale?
Well, it's currently chalked up for the substantive investment not to start until 2029, which is where you see the 1 million kicking in then. And if you carried on your columns, the 24 would be spread out across the subsequent years, but as we know, it won't be 24.
Okay.
So as things stand in the wider capital plan and therefore the Investing in Jersey plan, the project is due to start substantively in 2029.
When you say
As things start,
substantively, that's when the building will start,
that would be when you would start the planning process.
the planning. So actually it won't start building until
Physically start probably
realistically
until
2030.
I think what happened with all capital programmes, what happened was that we seem to have a lot of capital programmes and we didn't seem to be delivering any or none. So what was decided was that the ones that were the ones that were sort of decided or known as to what was going to happen with them and were properly developed were actually given the funding. But of course,
Which arguably the joint fire and ambulance
except
service
for the fact
was.
except for the fact of the element of the school on that site as well.
Anyway.
And that's where that all went into the bit of a convoluted area of
Dare I mention the Army and Sea Cadets budget has reduced from 4.9 million to 1.6.
It has.
Can you give us an update on that
Yeah,
project?
so that reflects a slight change in approach in conjunction with the cadet leaders and the relevant ministers, where we'd be looking to develop something on an already existing site, so perhaps a school. Those discussions are still underway. We're obviously still committed to delivering on the 2019 or 2020 proposition that then Constable Norman brought, that they would have a permanent base of operations, which is the phrasing in the proposition, and we're confident that one of a number of opportunities that we're currently scoping will deliver for the reduced amount of money.
And again, when will it be open and
Right there, yeah.
operational?
Well, that is, the money for it is showing next year. That would be a bit quick to actually spend all of the money, but we're hoping that with some feasibility work on a particular option about to kick off, we could have progress.
Okay.
certainly by the middle of next year, if not towards
So
the
you
end.
can keep the panel posted on
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, and when we've got a solution, we're obviously very happy to come back and present it properly.
Thank you. Total expenditure for Dewberry House, as we now know, has increased, so it's now exceeded the 5 million threshold that designates it as a major project. Have there had to be any additional governance procedures put in place retrospectively as a result of that development surpassing the threshold?
It's a Robin Accountable Officer project, but we're both working on it together in some ways. There haven't yet been. My understanding is that once the tenders are returned, that would be the go
That's catalyst
decision
for
for a
that.
major project, essentially.
Thank you.
Yes.
660,000 budgeted in 2026 for the prison phase 8 works. Can you just briefly describe what that's going to fund?
Yeah, there is a very slight phasing challenge in the budget, in that isn't actually the delivery of what we'd know as phase 8. What it is the remainder of some money for what was phase 6B, which was the demolition of the old gatehouse, which is now complete. It all looks very neat and tidy up there, at least. Phase 8, in fact, would be the new education sort of multi-purpose facility. So it's slightly mislabelled in the budget. We do still want that 660,000 though, and what that is being used for is meeting an urgent need to replace 2 boilers in K-Wing and L-Wing that are desperately in need of replacement. So that is the capital investment for next year for the prison.
So is the suggestion that 2 boilers are going to cost £660,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Such
What
is
are
the
they
state of
fuelled by?
the world. There's quite a lot of cost of removing the current boilers included in that, as well as replacing the one with new ones. Happy to brief you on it in more detail. I don't have the detail in front of me.
Thank you.
But yes, and then I suppose while we're on the prison, if I may, the next phases, I really do want to change the phase numbers because we all can't keep track of
nobody
them.
can remember them.
Which have been answered in that recent written question, are phase 7, 8 and 9 and 10. 7 is care and separation unit, 8 is new education and workshops, 9 is new healthcare, and 10 is replacement security fencing. All of that doesn't yet show in the capital budget because it would be future years, probably post 2029. So it just didn't feature in the 4 years of this
Okay.
budget, but it is very much on the agenda. It's included in the Investing in Jersey scoping work. And I don't think this minister or any future minister is going to let their colleagues forget that we need to do that work. So it will remain visible, it just doesn't show financially.
Thank you. Moving from prison to fire and rescue workforce, the budget proposes investment over the next 4 years to strengthen capacity and resilience, looking for 413,000 in 2026, but rising to 1.3 for the following 3 years of the budget. So can you just tell us how the funding will be utilised in 2026 and why it increases from 2027 onwards?
Would you like me to do that? Yep, sure. So the £413,000 is in the funded option. It's probably worth remembering as well, just as a headline, that the emergency planning unit is part of the States of Jersey Fire and Rescue Service. It's one of 9 business units in the SJFRS, and it doesn't do emergency planning for the States of Jersey Fire and Rescue Service. It reaches outwards and it works across the whole Jersey Resilience Forum, supporting and enabling. So it doesn't do anything for fire and rescue response. That's the job of the planners in the fire and rescue. £204,000 goes toward the emergency planning function, and what that does is it keeps it at 4.5 FTE as a team. They deliver an awful lot of work for 4.5 people, and they operate, like most things do in Jersey. They work at a sort of a local resilience level, but they also do national resilience things as well, and they're very busy. So all it really is doing is keeping the team as it is now. It's got interim funding from major incident funding and things like that off the back of various major incidents that have happened over the last few years, and it's about keeping the team that size. The rest of it then, as we talked about just earlier on, there is a post going into the Fire and Rescue Service. The intention at the moment is that that's going to be an organisational learning and assurance post. At the moment, the States Jersey Fire and Rescue Service has 3 non-firefighter jobs in it. So this would take it to 4. Obviously, there was a requested, the business case requested more in all regards, but this is what what the government is proposing at this stage. Then after that, there is specialist software. So, for example, if I give you one example, there are two things that it's going to hopefully help pay for. The first is mobile data system and technology. So that is the ability to make sure that firefighters have information that they need, safety critical information that they need on their appliances available to them when they are responding to incidents. They deal with a vast array of different things. There are so many specialisms that aren't specialist in Jersey. They are catch-all, just like Robin says, there are 4, 5 and more hats worn. And so it's really vital that we make sure that we provide them with as much information as we can. That's been recommended a number of times. It actually sits in a Grenfell recommendation from 2019 that mobile data systems should be upgraded. We just need a mobile data system. And so we're working on that. The other one is a community fire risk management information system to manage our protection enforcement work that we do, manage the caseload that goes through that small team there. The amount of money doesn't actually go as far as to pay the licenses across those two things, so we are going to need to make some software and license-based decisions next year to what do we cut back on in order to deliver those two things. Those two things are priorities. Then after that, it's about equipment, training and some firefighters in 2027. So some of it happens in 2026. You'll know in 2022, the World Health Organization confirmed firefighting as an occupation which is carcinogenic to humans. So it is a cancer-causing occupation. And that is because of the very modern range of things that get liberated in fires these days, and the amount of contaminant that comes from fires is absolutely enormous. So it's really critical that we do as much as we can, obviously, to protect our people, and in that, central to that is PPE. We hear a lot about PPE, and that PPE is a topic that got talked about an awful lot during the pandemic, didn't it? PPE in the Fire and Rescue Service is everything that they wear, whatever they're doing, but particularly in firefighting and firefighting in structures. It's extremely expensive. It's absolutely vital, and you need more than one piece of kit per person because, of course, as soon as it's contaminated, it needs to go through a decontamination process, but the firefighter needs to be decontaminated as well, and then they need to go about their business and respond to the next fire. So, and potentially get contaminated again. So, and we're not in that situation at the moment. We do not have enough PPE now to provide 2 sets of PPE that fit properly for all of our firefighters. So we need to get into that sort of shape, and that's what this is an attempt at starting to do.
Okay.
And then there's other bits about equipment as well.
All right, thank you, that's understood, yeah.
Okay. Right, so just to ask a few questions, you've mentioned the Emergency Services Control Centre. Minister, can you describe what changes the revenue expenditure growth funding for the Emergency Services Control Centre will make to operational practice? So how will this affect how it actually works?
I think I'll ask Paul to do this because I think he's got probably a far better knowledge than
Is it across both aspects that you want me to talk to, or
did you?
Or I can. Shall I start and then you?
Yeah,
perhaps
sure.
come in. So the key thing about the investment in the Emergency Services Control Centre, or ESCC, is initially to increase the resourcing of controllers. So there's 4 new posts for controllers. Of course, in reality, that is only actually one person at a time because there's 4 shifts to cover 24/7, 365 days a year as ever in the shift-based services. And there's also 1 extra management post in there. And what that is intended to do is to give us an increase in resourcing next year while we determine what the future model for the ESCC should in fact be. So there's been so much change in the space around both ambulance and fire and rescue control standards and requirements and the need for professionalism in those functions that we've recognised that we need those functions to be more specialist.
Yeah.
That may lead to a case for separation. That was set out in the business case that you've seen, that was an option. It wasn't the option that was pursued for next year, but that buys us a bit of time really to do that analysis in more detail. There are obviously pros and cons. If you keep the team together, you've got 1 team of controllers that look more efficient on the face of it because they are together answering the volume of calls, and if you split them, you'd have to have 2 teams that cover 24/7. But there could be really significant effectiveness reasons to do that. So 26 will be a bit of an interim year. We've changed the management in there already, and in fact, we've made a decision to recruit those controllers early. So if the investment doesn't go through in the government plan, we will cover that as a pressure because we saw it as so important. And the other thing we'll be doing is they've been sitting slightly below already funded complement. There should be 4 team leaders. In fact, they've been sitting at 3, so we're already recruiting the 4th. And they've been sitting at 2 team. They've been sitting at 1 team coach. They should be at 2, so already recruiting the 2nd. So by the beginning of the year, they will be at full complement, which will give us assurance to the Minister that operationally it is fully resourced and working well, while there is a small amount of change resource working with the heads of service and their teams on what should the future be. So it's about stabilising, increasing specialisation, and then deciding whether we should separate.
Okay, yeah. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's it. And so back several years ago now, quite a number of years ago now, I sort of, under my duties, legal duties, I committed the organisation to something called fire standards. So there is a fire standards board, and it sets out sort of minimum requirements for being a sort of a competent fire and rescue service, if you like. And there are loads of things that come off the back of that, some of which have been there for a very long time, some of which are relatively novel. And so my mission really is to make sure that we are compliant with those fire standards, not because we have to, but because that's the right thing to do. It means that we are assured that we're doing all of the things that we need to do in all of the right ways. So from my perspective, and Kate and I have talked about this a lot of times, you can imagine, the sort of future separation isn't the goal. Meeting the fire standards is the goal. And if separation is the only way we can do that, then that's where that comes into frame, if you like. So that's from my perspective.
Okay, so it'll be a matter of making sure everything's looked after during these processes where you there's an analysis to see what will work best, and just how will that analysis be done and what sort of metrics will be used, you know, at the moment?
Well, I think Paul set the framework for it really. It's got to be measured against what will give us the best chance of achieving the professional standards that we need to achieve in terms of the ministers and in relation to fire and rescue. Paul's statutory duty, what meets at the moment in the current construct, what meets the Minister for Health and Social Services needs, and what is most efficient and effective from a financial point of view. I would think we'd logically be coming to invite ourselves to give you a private briefing on this within the next 2 to 3 months to talk you through it in more detail if you'd be happy to do so.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. And actually, we've just come to the end of our time. And I know we've still got quite a few questions if we can send them to you for written answers.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you.